Welcome to Betting Weekly Premier League show. You're with Dan Roebuck alongside me, Nigel Seeley and Jack Wright. Nigel, only one home win last week. 40 matches in the book in the Premier League so far. Over 40% away wins. Goal count is down, just over 2.6. Are these trends likely to stay, or is it far too early to tell? A very good day to you.
A good day, yeah. It was a good result for the books last week. Liverpool getting beat. Bet Rivers very happy. The NFL's started off in absolute carnage for the bettors as well. So it's about time we get the money back. Like all good things, they don't last, do they? You know, they think things will always change around. You've got to evolve. So yes, it's looking quite good for the away teams. But this weekend we might see some home teams getting back into the winners' enclosure.
Champions League kicked off in midweek. Jack, more focused on it, different format. Lot of press around it. Do we think there'll be a little bit more of a come down from those teams that were involved in midweek, or can the stats that we've worked out over the last sort of decade still be applied here? Is it any different, do you think?
Well, we're going to find out. It's obviously hard to tell at this moment in time, first week in, but I think as far as the English clubs are concerned, I think the games we've had so far, of course, we're recording prior to Arsenal playing tonight, that they're going to take a lot of positives from it. Well, the ones that won needed those wins, really, and real good bit of momentum that they can then take into this weekend. So Manchester City, a bit disappointed as far as their draw is concerned, but have been around the block a few times. I'm sure they'll bounce back from that. So I don't think so. I think the travel is the one thing that you've got to bear in mind, and the efforts teams have to put in on the pitch. But I don't think that's been a massive issue at this moment in time, especially early in the season. So we should be okay.
I guess, Nigel, there's more games in this new league system, obviously. So if you have a misstep early, it's not necessarily as bad as it was, last year and previous campaigns. And also the cut-off for when you need to win and maybe affects those Premier League games might be a little bit later on in the schedule.
Yeah, I think definitely when the season gets going a little bit more, when teams are in domestic cup competitions as well, I think that's where they might see teams not take it so seriously. I mean, the FA Cup has always been a tournament that the top sides have put reserve sides out, but they might even put even weaker teams out. I think this is going to be a detriment to that competition. So I think we'll know a little bit more as the season goes on. But I mean, these teams you're talking about, they've got the best squads in the Premier League. I mean, they can put their reserve team out week in, week out. The only thing I would say about Man City is that now that they've sold a lot of their key players, that they're very reliant on Haaland in particular, really. So, we'll see what happens with him. But, I think there's a long way to go yet to find out the implications of the Champions League and the new format. But at the moment, it just seems to me as though we just go with what we know for the past few seasons.
Yeah, we've got to talk City at home against Arsenal. Of course, it's the big game of the weekend. We've got a 2-unit play. We've got a same-game parlay as well. It comes up later in the show. Did our cappers help you get a winner last weekend? Did you decide to fade us? Did you oppose Jack and Nigel? Share your Bet Rivers bet slip with us. Just tag us in at Because We Win. And watch out for a new Betting Weekly newsletter. You can sign up. It is for free, just like subscribing to the YouTube channel is. Head to bettingweeklystudios.com. Lots more to come from the Betting Weekly team over the course of this season. Let's get stuck into the Premier League card, shall we? We're going to start with the early kickoff as we always do on Saturday. No official plays on this one from the boys, but some interesting leans nonetheless. 7:30 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. It's West Ham against Chelsea, plus 230 West Ham. Chelsea are favourites just over even money. I know, Nigel, that card markets aren't available everywhere in the States, but we had 14 yellow cards in the Bournemouth-Chelsea game last weekend. It's a Premier League record. Anthony Taylor, who is in charge, has been taken off the weekend programme for referees because of that. And this is a fairly feisty London derby. Do you think, though, that the Premier League, won't want to have those sort of headlines again? Is this the one where we start to go undercards? I mean, it was incredible last weekend. We got Sam Barrett as the referee in charge. Is it something that you've looked at for this Chelsea game?
It wasn't even a dirty match, really, was it?
No, it wasn't. That's incredible.
Think about it. It wasn't it. And I think there was another game, wasn't there, on the Tottenham Arsenal game?
Yeah, that was 7 at half time.
7 at half time. I think it was the most there's been in the Premier League at half time ever, I believe. So I think it was a crazy, crazy weekend for cards. I mean, for my strategy always is to go with swim against the tide on these. So when everybody wants to be going on the overs, I think the referee, Anthony Taylor's been took off duties there for that reason alone. So they'll be told, listen, don't be giving the cards willy-nilly. So I think that if the line does get very, very high. My tendency would be to go low. Unfortunately, as we say, Bet Rivers do not offer card markets in many of the states across America, so we don't really have that market to go by. But I'm sure if you were looking at the same game parlays and stuff like that, you might have put it in at a later day. And if you're in a state that does allow that, then there's a market you would look at it. But I would probably say under. With regards to this match, I think these are two sides that are coming to this game very fortunate from the weekend results. Obviously, West Ham left it extremely late to get a draw against Fulham, and Chelsea left it very late against Bournemouth, wasn't it, to win 1-0. It's a fixture that Chelsea have had problems with in the past. They've only won one in the last 7 against West Ham. And I was very, very surprised by the market. I was really shocked. I mean, Chelsea, I think is approaching minus money away at West Ham. That is not a price that would attract me at all. I'm still not convinced by this Chelsea side. I think they've struggled against Crystal Palace. They struggled against Bournemouth. And we look at their form and think to ourselves, well, they had one brilliant win against against Wolves, 6-2. And now they're a chance pushing into the Champions League. I think they're a work in progress. I think they've got a lot of work to do. Saying that, West Ham, they aren't playing well as well yet. Lots of new faces. I think they're going to take them time to gel. New manager, new system, new personnel at the at the London Stadium there. So I think this is a difficult one to call. If you look at the goal markets, 3 of the 4 Premier League games for West Ham this season, both teams have scored yes. But on the flip side for Chelsea, 3 of their 4 matches have been under 2.5 goals. Only that freak match against Wolves has been cashing for overs. I'm leaning towards West Ham in some capacity, and I think if I was having a lean here, I'd probably bet West Ham on the double chance at minus 134. Get the draw involved. Wouldn't surprise me to see a draw. Chelsea have got a game in the I think Europa League in midweek as well. So, then we know that they're going to rest players for that. Cole Palmer's not in that Conference League squad they have. So I think West Ham have got a chance. I think the history here, this fixture is a feisty one. West Ham have got a good record. Nothing to me to suggest that Chelsea should be heavy minus money favourites here. And I'm going to go for West Ham on the double chance. Get the draw as well. Minus 134, Marlene.
Speaking about getting the draw on side, not after the 90, but Jack, your lean is after the 45.
Yeah, I've gone with half-time tie in this one, plus 155. I think there's a couple of elements to it, all the things really that Nigel then said there. I saw an interesting quote in UK media this week about Julian Lopetegui saying that he's like a pensioner driving a rally car with the West Ham side at the minute. They've spent quite a lot of money in those forward areas, and he's not really utilising them yet or getting the best of them. And is that a massive surprise? He's generally a pragmatic coach anyway. So I think against a side he knows can hurt him offensively, i.e. Chelsea in this case, with all the abundance of attack they've got available to him, I think he might go a little bit cautious initially in this one, then look to spring and hit them on the break potentially in the second half. As I say, they did improve last week by bringing on the likes of Somerville. It's Danny Ings that popped up with a goal of all people, really. So a bit of a surprise very late in the day. But yeah, I'll go with the lean on the half-time tie here. Chelsea are one of those sides at the moment that you put in the box of going, that could be anything. So kind of avoid it a little bit because it could be unders, overs, both teams score yes, no. They've won, drawn and lost already this season. So yeah, how they kept a clean sheet last week against Bournemouth, God knows, but they did somehow. So it's one of those, even if you're playing in play, you can't really predict what's going to happen with them. So yeah, for me, I've gone with the half-time tie because of the early kick-off as well, playing a factor.
Let's get some official plays in, shall we? Both of the boys have gone in the same game for particular picks here. I never had down on my bingo card that Southampton Ipswich would be the game that Nigel and Jack fall out in, but here we are. 10 a.m. Eastern Saturday. Saints are plus 120, Ipswich plus 220, draw plus 255. Here we go in the red corner. King of the 1-unit plays, unbeaten so far, but he's going in with a 2-unit play this week, he's Jack Wright. And in the blue corner, the DOC, the director of content, the Betting Weekly founder, Nigel Seeley. He's gone with a 1-unit play here. They're going head-to-head, opposing views, same market. Jack, when you come at the boss, you better not miss. You can go first because your 2-unit plays on this one, all yours.
Well, at least I'm doing it to his face. But anyway,
yes. Very well said, Jack.
But
Continue. You're out.
But with this one, surprise, I'm going over goals, and there's going to be a difference of opinion. But do you know what? This is why we've done this, isn't it? We put the picks in secret to you directly. so we can have this kind of non-influence, and we'll have those differences of opinion. So I've gone with over 2.5 goals in this. But if you look at the bare stats of it, it doesn't look massively impressive. Neither of these sides have started very well. You've got a little bit of leeway as far as Ipswich is concerned. You consider they've played Liverpool, they've been away at Manchester City, even going away at Brighton is not an easy task. So this, yes, they played Fulham at home, but this one is, in all intents and purposes, really a championship clash. These are relegation favourites. They are likely to both go down. And this one, I think Steve Wisp, when I first kind of knew about Steve, we used to refer to a Steve Wisp theory game, which is generally two sides that are struggling but need a win, and they come out swinging. And I think both these sides will come out looking to attack in this game. The last time they played was quite recently. It was April. It ended in a 3-2 win for Ipswich. Admittedly, that was at Portman Road. But I don't think their styles of play are going to be too different regardless of being home or away. We certainly know that with Russell Martin. He's wedded to that particular style. They've given up more chances than anyone else in the league. They've conceded, on average, 2 goals a game. And when I look at the Ipswich side, they've got a better attack than they had last season for certain. Not so sure about their defensive capabilities, but I think in attack, the likes of Sammy Smodics, top championship goal scorer last season, Mari Hutchinson, they've got from Chelsea on a permanent, good signing, and Delap from Manchester City, they do offer lots going forward, and I think they'll get plenty of chances against Southampton. I was caught between 2 or 3 bets in this one, to be honest with you, because I do like Ipswich on the money line. But I've gone and watered it down to think that there's going to be goals in it, because if one side takes the lead in this, the other has got to come out because they can't afford to lose it. I think this is the one that they've both earmarked for 3 points and need to take them. So I think an entertaining clash is on the cards, and therefore goals. The two sides I'm not convinced about defensively.
That is the case for the attack. What about the case for the defence? Nigel Seeley, you've gone under with your 1-unit play.
Shock, innit? Shock, I've gone under. I mean, I think Jack's point about the two teams being needing a win and stuff like that, I think we're a little bit too early in the season to see that. I think 4 games in, need to win. If we're at Christmas time, maybe, and they were both well adrift at the bottom. But Ipswich have started pretty well. You know, the 2 matches at the start of the season against Manchester City and Liverpool, no one expected to get anything from that. And they've been unbeaten since then with a hard-fought draw, 0-0 draw last time out against Brighton as well. So, I mean, it's a huge match. But Mike, I'm coming at it differently, thinking, well, it's a huge match. Would Southampton be happy with a point here and just think, okay, we got a point and we got a point on the board and let's build on it. They've got some winnable fixtures coming up. They've got Bournemouth, which is a big local derby. They've got Leicester at home as well. So I don't think this is a huge winner-takes-all battle after 4 matches of the season. I know they're both languishing at the bottom of the foot. The bare stats on this are interesting as well. I mean, Southampton have only scored 1 goal this season. They're the 2 lowest scorers in the Premier League so far. Southampton have only scored 1 goal. Ipswich have only scored 2 goals. At home, Southampton have failed to score, and Ipswich have only scored 1 goal on the road. So that really doesn't lend itself to a high-scoring game. I know we're coming with the angle that they both need to win. But if you look at the stats, now XG is something that I give or take sometimes, but the last home performance from Southampton was against Nottingham Forest, where they were absolutely dreadful. And their XG was 0.21, which is the lowest of the Premier League this season. And that is a team that you could argue that they needed to win that match, but they weren't good enough. You know, that everyone was saying that could be a relegation battle, and they weren't good enough. They couldn't break down a 10-men Newcastle on the first day of the season. Newcastle held on to a 1-0 win. And Ipswich, their stats have been pretty dire as well on the XG. 0.48 against Manchester City. Okay, they scored early in that game, and then they City just had all the possession, which you would expect that to be low. But 0.71 at home to Fulham, 0.72 at Brighton. These aren't stats that I would be looking to back the side to win. But 2 teams to get 3 goals between them. So I'm looking at this one as well. I mean, Jack's mentioned that the 3-2 win last year, but I'm more interested in the 1-0 win at Southampton last year, where it was earlier in the season, and Ipswich went and won 1-0. So it's really a case of how you think these two sides will set up, and do they look to gain a point, which they think could be valuable as the season goes on and build on that point? Or do you think, what Jack thinks, that they're going to go all out and try to get 3 points and earmark it down as a win? Like I say, I would have thought that Southampton would have done that at home to Nottingham Forest in their first home game back in the Premier League, and they weren't good enough to produce just 0.21 XG. So Two lowest scorers in the division, two teams that I think are going to struggle, two teams that I wouldn't trust in goal scoring markets, and I think to get plus 105 on under 2.5 goals, that would be a bet for me.
There you go. Who do you trust, viewers? Jack, 2-unit play over 2.5 goals, minus 134, or Nigel, 1-unit play under 2.5 at plus 105. Hang on, the producer's on. He says he won't trust any of them. That's shocking. What was that? Oh, he says at least we'll get a winner out of that game this weekend. Let's move on to Fulham against Newcastle, which is 10 a.m. Saturday as well. Fulham plus 195, Newcastle plus 130. We've got Jack's hot dog here. And did anyone see the Preston Fulham penalty shootout? 16-15 to Fulham, 34 penalties taken in the League Cup. Fourth longest ever. Got a quiz for you, Nigel. First quiz of the season. Are you ready?
Go on.
The longest ever shootout. How many penalties were taken?
I remember one of them a few years back. It was in an African Cup of Nations game. I remember watching it, but I don't know if it was the longest one ever. But the longest one ever,
give me the number. How many penalties?
52.
52. Very, very close. Jack, longest penalty shootout in terms of penalties taken.
I seem to remember there was one earlier this year, wasn't there? Which went set the record. It was over 50. I can't remember the exact number.
56.
56.
SC Dimona 23, Shimshon Tel Aviv 22.
Yes.
It was a third division Israeli
I
player.
was on the unders.
Under 49.5 penalties in that one. Yeah.
We've got Jack's hot dog here, and it features Fulham starting well. Jack.
Yeah, I'm going with Fulham to be winning at half time. And this one isn't really based around stats. This is more about what I've kind of seen so far and a little bit of a gut shot as how I think this one might pan out. I thought Fulham were really exciting to watch last week against West Ham. And they have been pretty much for the start of this season. We talked about them at the top of the before the season started, saying that they were ones to watch, a couple of signings that caught the eye. And that's been the case so far. And they haven't really had the results that have gone for them that we possibly would have expected. But the performances have been decent. Pereira's created more chances than everyone other than one other player. He's tied with Kevin De Bruyne as far as that's concerned. So he's been impressive. Emile Smith-Rowe, we've talked about, has been a live wire, getting game time. He's only going to get better. Got his assist last weekend. And Traore, when he's on his game, he's an absolute handful, full of pace, full of power. And that's been how he's started this season so far, which is good. The only thing they've lacked is a finishing touch, really. And they've persisted with Muniz, who had lots and lots of chances, didn't score. Last week, they brought in Jimenez, who did score in his first sort of start of the season. So would expect that to be the case where he'll start again this week. And that kind of goes as a little bit of a perfect storm against the Newcastle side that have sort of flattered to deceive a little bit this season. They're up there level on points of Arsenal, but you kind of work out how they've done it. So they're that back to the wall one against Southampton at the start of the season with the red card. And then they've been a little bit fortunate to pick up points in most of those games since then. Tottenham being an example. And they have been behind at halftime in both their away games so far. And that was at Wolves and at Bournemouth. And they picked up 4 points from those. So I'm not worried about what happens by the end of this game. I'm just feeling that, Newcastle in London, they're not the best away side in the league. They're normally around about mid-table as far as that's concerned. And Fulham are pretty strong at Craven Cottage. So I just feel a strong start there for Fulham. They can get their noses in front. We can pick up a nice half-time position in this one at plus money. So, what are we at? Plus 225. Yeah, half-time lead for Fulham.
Nigel, got a lean on this one for us?
Well, I just go. I think it hasn't been a great week for Fulham, has it? I mean, that incredible penalty loss, as you said there, and then that last-minute equaliser against West Ham. Newcastle have done all right, actually. I mean, I know they're not setting the world alight at the moment with their performances, but they had a big win last week against Wolves. They've never beaten Wolves, I don't think, since Wolves have been in the Premier League. So that was a big win to come back from behind and win that. The only thing here is the recent record for Newcastle is phenomenal against Fulham. They're unbeaten in their last 9 matches at Fulham, and they played them 3 times last year, and they won all 3, and they didn't concede. I think Newcastle have got another gear to go into. I think they'll be pleasantly pleased with their performances so far this season. I think that it's Isaac's birthday. I'm surprised he never got a mention on the anytime goal scorer here. But
yeah,
obviously,
no, he's bound to score this week.
He's bound to score this week. So I think they're a side that, and they're underperforming at the moment. I think they can hit their stride and do well. They've obviously got no European commitments as well, which is massive for them this season. And they could be a side that could break into the Champions League because they're doing well and not playing well. So when they start hitting their stride, and I just got a feeling that they might win this match. Plus 135 Newcastle would be my lean here, just to add to pressure on what has been a very, very disappointing week for Fulham. Very hard to lift themselves from that last-minute equaliser and then going through that penalty shootout as well. That must be demoralising for them as well. But I think Newcastle have got the edge here. They seem to be able to beat Fulham down on the River Thames at Craven Cottage, and I think they will add to their woes with a win here at plus 135.
If, incidentally, you fancy Fulham half-time and Newcastle full-time, that would suit our cappers. And just a shout-out to Tango Foxtrot, who on the YouTube comments last week went Everton half-time, Villa full-time at around about 20-1. So shout-out to Tango Foxtrot for that really good play on the Everton-Villa game. Let's move on to Leicester against Everton. Leicester plus 150, Everton plus 180. We have got Nigel's hot dog here. We've got 2 goal scorer plays as well from the boys. One official, one lean. So let's get Nigel's hot dog first of all. Who's the striker that you're hoping will net in this game at the King Power?
I'm going for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And he scored in his last 2 matches. He scored in his last match against Leicester when Leicester got relegated that season. And he's a player that everyone was talking about 2 years ago, 3 seasons ago, as the man who was going to be the understudy to Harry Kane. He was going to move on to bigger or better things. He lost his way. He went modelling. He started to wear some fancy clothes, and suddenly he was more bothered about the modelling than he was about the football. Now, this season, he seems to be a very, very determined player. The one thing about this Everton side is, they've obviously, everyone knows the story. They've been 2-0 up in the last 2 matches and lost them both. But the one thing they have got is goals in this side, and they just can't defend. This is a match that screams goals to me. It does, I'm not usually one who likes to bet on the overs, but I just think this one here just screams goals because both of these sides can't defend. Leicester have conceded at least 2 goals in all of their matches by 1 this season. 2 goals against Palace, 2 goals against Villa, 2 goals against Fulham. And then how they never conceded at least 2 goals against Tottenham, I still don't know. So their defensive woes are there to all to see. We all know about Everton. Everton, have got goals in it. This just screams goals. And if it screams goals, the main man, Calvert-Lewin, in form, on penalties, I like him to score any time at plus 280. That's a big price, I think, plus 280 in a game that's got goals in it. And for a main striker who is on penalties as well. When we talk about we joke about Isaac, we joke about these kind of players who are Ollie Watkins, that kind of they're starting off these kind of matches at minus 110, plus 105, plus 280 for an informed striker who is scored in back-to-back Premier League matches. In a Villa side, and an Everton side, they've got goals in a match that screams goals, and he's on the pens. I think it's a big price, plus 280.
Jack's got a lean for us. Goal scorer market once again. Jack.
Yeah, firstly, I'm just going to quickly say about the community that's growing on that YouTube channel. It's phenomenal. We're loving the comments that come through that we're getting every week. So more of them from everyone, please. Having debate about our picks, putting your own picks forward as well. I think that's absolutely sensational. Loving that. Now, and I say some huge winners getting picked out of there as well. So great fun indeed. So as far as this game's concerned, I agree with Nigel. I was going over 2.5 goals as one of my picks actually in this. So I do agree that there will be goals in it. And in the end, I've picked other ones and therefore gone for a slightly bigger option as far as the lean here is concerned. It's Dwight McNeil to score at any time. Plus 510 is the lean. So a huge price, I think, for a confidence player. You tend to find he goes a little bit streaky when he's in a good vein of form. And he's got the backing of Sean Dyche. He obviously likes him from his days at Burnley. That's come through into this. He scored and assisted last weekend in that defeat at Aston Villa. He'd scored in the EFL Cup a couple of weeks prior to that. And I looked through his data and looked to see that, say, a couple of seasons ago, he scored 7 goals. He got the first in that season. He then went on to get 5 in 9. So real clustered together. And last season, when he got his first goal, he got his second goal in the game after. So he is that kind of player, as wide players tend to be. That little bit of confidence, that bit of swagger, it comes out in their game. So I agree, and I think one market I was looking for wasn't there. I've gone with him to score, but I do like him in the assist market. Bet Rivers will probably bring this market in closer to kick-off, and it wouldn't be surprising to see him throw in one of his crosses or corners and Calvert-Lewin gets on the end of it, because Leicester are very weak defensively from set pieces. So that could be a real area for them to exploit. So that's my angle in on this one.
Yeah, McNeil to score at any time. Watch out for the assist market when it comes up. Fantastic deliverer of a football, Dwight McNeil. One other 10 a.m. Saturday fixture that's got an official play in it. It's Villa against Wolves. Villa minus 182, Wolves plus 450 here. Jack, you've got to play in the goal line, but it's not the standard over and under 2.5. You've got to go a little bit higher to get the pick in here.
Yeah, I've gone for over 3 goal line. Again, initially I was playing around with the selections this week, and I fancy Villa to win this one. But I also fancy him to concede. So I was looking at the options as far as them winning and both teams to score, because of the odds not being good enough just to go down a single route. It basically was looking like it was going to be Villa to win and over 2.5 goals. And then I thought, well, if there's going to be 2.5 goals and obviously Villa are going to win it on that basis, then I could play this line anyway, because I was a bit surprised to see it at plus money. So over 3 goal line in this one at plus 100 looks like a real solid play because of how Villa are at the moment. I think they've gone a little bit under the radar as far as they've won 4 of their 5 games across all competitions this season. The only defeat being that kind of unlucky one against Arsenal at the start of the campaign. Brilliant result for them in Europe during the week. And again, I just love Unai Emery more and more each time I see him. You know, the respect he paid after that game as well. He just gets the club, buys into it. So I think we're going to get an absolutely incredible atmosphere at Villa Park this weekend. He's kind of galvanised the club. The sad news about Gary Shaw is really going to galvanise them. Not that they need galvanising as such, but it's just going to crank up the atmosphere even more. And I think it's going to be a fearsome place for Wolves to go to. It's going to be buoyant because of that European success. It's going to be buoyant because of how they're performing. And also, I say, the fact of a club legend passing away this week as well. So as far as Wolves are concerned, I just feel they're a bit fragile defensively. It doesn't look like Gary O'Neill's going to change his strategy or style. And I think he realises that his defence is too weak, really, to go and look to be more pragmatic. So he's just going to try and win games by their attacking processes. They started well against Newcastle last week, took the lead at half time, and then folded at the end of it. But I think that looking at the way this game pans out, I take Villa to win, but I do think Wolves have got a goal in them, and therefore that's going to take us over this goal line. I say 3 goals exactly gets us a push on this one, but we're looking for 4 or more for a full payout.
Gary O'Neill plus 500 or thereabouts to be an ex-Premier League coach to go. Wolves plus 225 to be relegated. Nigel, thoughts on this one? Thoughts on Wolves? Thoughts on Villa?
I think I mentioned Gary O'Neill at the start of the season at 20-1. I didn't bet him, but I think he's a kind of manager that will actually just have enough and walk away if he doesn't get any money. And he doesn't appear to be getting any money. He looks stressed out. He's always a manager that does look stressed out. Looks stressed out. He's going to be more stressed out after this match here. Villa's got goals, I couldn't agree more with Jack. Watkins and Duran have been on fire up this season. Scored at least 2 goals in every match of the season, barring that Arsenal game. Young Boys was another impressive performance, 3-0 there. Wolves are in all kinds of trouble, conceding an alarming amount of goals this season. Villa have got some real winnable fixtures coming up now before they play Bayern Munich in the Champions League, and you could see, I think he's going to go all out now to put a statement on the league form, and I think Villa -1 at even money would be my bet here. Villa being my 2-point bet for the last 2 weeks. Last week was a push. We didn't cash on the -1, and then the week before they won for me. But Villa are a side that I think we want to get with in these kind of matches, because I still think the market's underrating them, and I think they'll win this, and I think they'll win this rather well. So I'm going to go Villa -1. I agree with Jack. I think Wolves could have a goal in it, maybe 3-1, 4-1 Villa, but Villa. With the sad news about Gary Shaw as well, this will be a very, very, very tough place to go for Wolves, and I think Villa will win this fairly comfortably.
Let's get some quick-fire leans on the other 10 a.m. Eastern games, and indeed the Palace United game, which is 12:30. Liverpool, Bournemouth, first of all. Nigel, Liverpool are short price favourites, bounced back from the Forest defeat with a win in the Champions League. Any lean on this one?
Well, the lean I would go for is Liverpool -1.5. I think that, all good sides, how they bounce back is key to them. We saw against Milan that there was no problems after the shock defeat against Nottingham Forest last week. That was a good performance from Liverpool. And I think at home now, I think they're up against a side they've got an absolutely unbelievable record. 4-0, 3-1, 9-0, 3-0, 3-0 in sort of some of the matches in the last couple of seasons here. And I think that Bournemouth, they haven't been playing well, They lost their... No, they haven't been getting results, so they've been playing okay, but They lost against Chelsea 1-0, lost against West Ham 1-0. They were so lucky to get the win against Everton, and prior to that, 2 draws. They could be in a position where they haven't won a game this season. So they may be a little bit under the radar of the side that are doing. People might be thinking they're doing a lot better than they actually are here. I expect Liverpool to bounce back. The only thing surprising me for Liverpool is only 1.17 XG in that Nottingham Forest game. You would expect when they went 1-0 down, under Klopp, they would have just had loads of corners, thrown everyone forward. But that was a little bit of a worry for me. But Liverpool matches this season, lots of unders in the league, but I do think they've got to put a statement win here, and I think that the lean would be Liverpool -1.5, which is -127 on the Asian handicap.
Jack, lean on this one.
Yeah, I'm going for a Liverpool win as well. Slightly different angle in that I've gone for both teams to score as well at +123. All the same reasons why I fancy Liverpool to win this one. But this was a similar pattern last season. Bournemouth took an early lead at Anfield, and then Liverpool put the foot down and won that 3-1. Bournemouth score goals away from home in the league. They've scored in 16 of the last 17 away from home, which is a great record. Again, another one that slides a little bit under the radar. And under Iraola, since he joined the club, they've actually scored in 19 of the last 21 Premier League away games. Only 2 sides have kept clean sheets against them. That's Arsenal and Everton. And when you look at them against the big teams in the league, the sides that finished high up last season, they lost 3-1 to Liverpool, they lost 6-1 to Manchester City, they lost 3-1 to Aston Villa, they lost 3-1 to Spurs. So Liverpool to win, both teams to score. If you want to go for something more exotic, 3-1 seems like a nice bet.
And Spurs against Brentford. Jack, you've got a goal scorer lean for us here. Spurs are short price favourites. Brentford nearly 5-1. It's a Brentford player that you like.
Here's Brian Mbeumo to score, +295 is the lean. I wanted to get a bit of a pro Brentford stance with this game coming up. The injury, it's been a terrible injury summer for the Wiss brothers, hasn't it? Steve Wiss with his ankle injury, and now Wisser with his injury as well. So it's terrible there. He's out for a few weeks. So I kind of cooled it a little bit on Brentford because I want to see how they get on without him. He's been key at the start of the season. I'm not massively into Sharda at the moment as his replacement. Be interested to see Carvalho. I'd be liking to see him getting some game time, but he played full 90 in the EFL Cup midweek, so you'd assume he's not going to start this one. But Mbeumo has kind of carried them through tough times in the past, and I think he can get a goal against Tottenham here. I was tempted with Brentford money line as a real outsider here. I was kind of wincing a little bit last night with Spurs losing to Coventry, thinking everyone's going to kind of be on that same kind of boat. Maybe they won't now. They did manage to get the win, but I fancy him to concede here, and I think Mbeumo is the main man. He'll be on penalties as well. So that is, for me, a pro-Brentford angle without going too overboard at it, a decent plus price.
Nigel, what do you like in this one? Spurs may be a little bit fortunate against Coventry. I tend to think that Ange Postecoglou's getting rattled a little bit, isn't he, by comments from the press? I don't know about this one. I won't play Spurs at minus money, big minus money.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you. I don't know what I like, but what I don't like is Tottenham at -190. That's what I don't like. You couldn't bet them at all at that kind of price. I'm looking at goals. 3 of the 4 matches for Brentford this season, both teams to score. 3 of the 4 over 2.5 goals. This match has a history of goals in the fixture. 3-2 last season, 2-2 in the reverse. Brentford won 3-1 season before, and another 2-2. The old Desmond 2-2 could be on the cards here, but I think over 3.5 goals at +112. I mean, Postecoglou's got to get a performance. If he doesn't win this match, he's under huge pressure. And he's the nice guy, and we've seen it happen so many times at Tottenham over the years with managers who've gone in there and started off well, and then all of a sudden they're under pressure and they're gone very quickly. And the Postecoglou era could be turning very quickly here. But Brentford always have a good record in London derbies as well. Last season, they very rarely get beat in London derbies. A lot of draws in those, though, I must admit. So I was leaning for the draw. If you're going to have a big bet, pizza bet the 2-2, but over 3.5 is my lean at +112.
12:30 Eastern is Crystal Palace against Manchester United here. United are the favourites. Someone's going to have to explain that to me. I can't believe that none of you had a bet in this game, Nigel. There's a lot of stats that will point to a home win. There's a lot of stats that will point to overs as well. I mean, first up, do United deserve to be favoured? What's happened here? We were talking about United end of last season, start of this, and they're not favourites in games like this anymore. Have they improved so much that they should be favourites at Selhurst Park, or is it just that blip from Palace at the start of the season that has persuaded the odds compilers here to push United as favourites?
I think it's that exact blip. I think you can't trust this version of Crystal Palace, definitely defensively. I mean, they look a shambles defensively. Manchester United, Man United and Chelsea, the two teams you just can't read at the moment. Last week was a very professional performance, 3-0 win at Southampton, job done. Those kind of performances are getting Ten Hag, keeping him in his job. Palace, my brother was at Palace last week, said they played well, they created a lot of chances but couldn't put the ball in the back of the net last season with Elise, Eze, Mateta and obviously the centre half as well. They were a different side. They've lost world class players. I mean, real world class players. Elise's lighting it up for France and in Bayern Munich. You can't not replace these players, and that's the problem that Crystal Palace have here, and that's why they're not favourites for this match. They're creating chances, yes, but they're not putting the ball in the back of the net. It was a 2-2 draw against Leicester. Leicester defensively tore them apart at some stages, and Palace do look weak in that central defensive part. Mark Gaya has obviously had his head turned by the move to Newcastle. He doesn't look the same player. And end of the season last year, we did discuss this match, and it was a huge gamble on Crystal Palace. I think we all put Crystal Palace up, but this version of Crystal Palace, I cannot trust at all. So for me, goals over 3 goals, -104. I think with the Asian line, 3 a push. I just can't see how this much. Both teams can't score in this game. I think Palace give up too many opportunities. They've got goals in them. They've got flair players in them. They've got guys in form going forward in Eze and Matete. But Manchester United do have goals themselves. So over 3 goals, -104. Couldn't play the money line. I think this is the toughest match on the weekend on the money line. I couldn't really play it.
I just think on the odds, you've got to back Palace. I mean, I'm not 100% certain they're going to win, but I just don't see what's changed so much. Jack, what's your take on it?
Much the same, really. Palace, a shadow of the side we saw at the back end of last season. And you can know exactly why. So Anderson's been a big mess at the back. He again doesn't quite look the same player at this moment in time when he's wearing a Palace shirt. So they will concede chances going forward. Brilliant. I thought Mateta's first goal was exceptional last week. It's kind of, again, another one that's gone under the radar a little bit. A beautiful finish. And he has become a real good, consistent goal scorer for them now. Eze just goes from strength to strength. And I'm really interested to see how Nketiah comes in for them. I think he started off quite well, plenty of shots and scored in that cup game in midweek. So he's on the radar as far as the goal scorer is concerned coming up. My lean, I've actually gone with over 1.5 Man United goals in this one at -104. Again, United, I'm not overly convinced with defensively. And that again, a little moment in time, isn't it? That penalty goes in for Southampton. It possibly changes it all last week. But they didn't. They went pretty much down the other end and scored straight away and end up making it look a really comfortable win 3-0. 7 in midweek against a third-tier side. It was a perfect game for them to have to keep the confidence going, keep that momentum they've now built going, and also put some real confidence into some key players. Rashford scoring goals, Garnacho as well, even Anthony getting his goal. It's kind of keeping that kind of vibe going for him. But the likes of Fernandes getting on and providing assists. So I just feel that United can get at this Palace defence, and therefore over 1.5 United goals is my lean at -104.
Final couple of minutes before we get into the big game of the weekend, which of course is Man City Arsenal. Quickly on this one, fellas. Brighton against Forest. This is Sunday 9 a.m. Eastern. Brighton, to me, Nigel, -129. I mean, I know it's minus money, but it seems fairly big. Are we over-egging Forest just because they've won at Liverpool for the first time in a zillion years?
Well, I said last week, be very cautious about betting Brighton at -$3 in that match against Ipswich. And, obviously you have to look in the mirror and think, why have I done that if it went wrong? And hopefully many people didn't have that look at themselves in the mirror. I try to avoid that every day. But anyway, Brighton, it was the curse of the manager of the month, wasn't it? Hersler got the manager of the month, and obviously he gets a 0-0 draw as a -$3 favourite. Forest have been the winner of the season last week. It was the performance of the season, the performance for Espirito Nunes in his match as well, and in his time at Forest, 1-0 win at Liverpool, superb. We know he's quite defensive minded. Every single match that Forest have played this season has been cashed under 2.5 goals. Last year this match was 1-0. The year before it was 0-0 in the 2 matches in the Premier League. I'm going to go for under 2.5 goals. I think Forest have got the potential to be quite a good side this year. They've got some flair players in Hudson-Odoi, Elango as well. And I got a feeling if they can get over their problems on the road, which they seem to have done, I think they could, we could have been for a rebase for them in a couple of weeks' time. And I think that's what's happened here. I think people are starting to rebase them. They might not be so bad as we thought. And everybody looked at this kind of fixture last season and thought, on the season before, Forest on the road is 3 points for the home side. Not so sitting ashore now. Wouldn't surprise me to see this be a 1-0 narrow win for Brighton, but under 2.5 goals plus 105.
Yeah, those stats suggesting plus money unders is a value play. Jack, what is your particular selection?
Exactly the same. Under 2.5 goals, plus 105. And I think I'm getting serious Wolves under Nuno vibes about this Forest side at the moment. I think he's got them well organised. They know what they're doing, compact, tight defensively. The template he used at Liverpool, he's going to use again, I guess, get this one here at Brighton, who are a dangerous side. But you look to stay in the game, keep it nice and tight, and then look to exploit the gaps behind on the break. They've got a target man in Chris Wood that they can then get some pace around him. They're quite solid as far as the midfield pairing is concerned. And those two defenders, real towers, real pillars at the back there, are tough to break down. So, positivity about Forest at the minute without looking like exceptional as far as all the goal scoring side of things is concerned. So this was so close to being my one unit play, and I changed it at the last moment. But I think plus money for this is a great price.
It's a double lean for under 2.5 goals. Can we not get this on the P&L, Nigel? Does a double lean mean a point?
No. No.
Can we not get Joe to put it on the Excel spreadsheet?
No. It's three. The rules are simple. The rules are simple. We're not breaking the rules.
It's a double lean.
This is not Simon Cowell putting golden buzzers through and all this kind of stuff.
It's a double lean.
No,
it's a double lean.
Well, it's double lean, but it doesn't make the official plays, unfortunately. Sorry.
Big game of the weekend: Manchester City versus Arsenal, 11:30 a.m. Sunday Eastern Time. City are the minus money favourites, minus 129. Arsenal plus 360, draw plus 265, over and under here minus 107, over minus 117 under. Biggest game of the season so far. We've got the 2-unit play and the same game parlay coming your way. Before we get into it, fellas, if I gave you $100, who'd you bet for the title at the odds? City minus 112, Arsenal plus 200. Nigel?
Arsenal at plus 200.
Jack?
Same.
So no joy for City here. No push for City at minus 112. That's interesting. City have won the last 13 Premier League games. Arsenal haven't trailed away from home in their last 11 in the top flight. As we mentioned, 2-unit play in the same game parlay coming away in the big game of the weekend. Nigel is first up with a 2U.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still unbeaten on my 2U plays.
Yes, you are. You've got a draw.
I've got a push last week. I got a push last week, so I'm very unlucky with the push, I thought. But anyway, I got the push, so I'm still unbeaten on the 2-unit play. And it's very rare that my 2-unit play comes in such a high-profile match. It's a match that I always think to myself, well, there isn't any value here. But I just think this match screams under goals. And it's minus 117 under 2.5 goals for me. It's a huge match. And obviously, this is the rivalry in English football now. You know, with Liverpool are on. You know, they're not Liverpool under Klopp, and they're not. This is the title's going to be won between these two sides. You can see from the betting, and I think more so than ever, the gap between the two of them is closing rapidly. And there is a huge amount of respect for both of these managers and for both of these sets of teams. So I think this is a huge match. It's the best attack with the best defence. It's the best striker, and Haaland against the best defender in the Premier League in Saliba. So you might cancel each other out. City obviously coming on the back of a 0-0 draw against Inter Milan. We don't know what Arsenal are going to do tonight. Downside for Arsenal, no Odegaard. Obviously, it's a huge blow for him. Looks like he's going to be out for some time as well, which is a real big shame. Declan Rice is back, which is positive for them, obviously. He got the tactics spot on against Tottenham. Arteta, absolutely spot on. He changed the formation a little bit, went with it and got it and nullified Tottenham and just grinded them into submission. And that's, I think he'll pretty much try to do the same against Manchester City. Manchester City, obviously, I still believe they are aware these charges are against them. I think that's always in the back of their mind there. If you look at the last few matches between these two sides, last season 0-0 and a 1-0 win, really tight. And I think this season more than ever, where these two sides are the title contenders, it's going to go down to the wire between these two sides. The matches against each other could determine the title. And I was saying to Jack earlier, you know, we might get carried away on early 5 matches, but I do think where are these two sides going to drop points? They're not going to drop many points, and if they do drop points, they drop at similar kind of places. So the matches between these two sides will come down, and I think that means that we are going to get a very tight game. And also both of them involved in the Champions League, which you have a lull the following week. So both of them have come back from Champions League. Arsenal obviously have an extra day with the match tonight, and Man City have an extra day rest. But I do think unders here, minus 117, under 2.5. It's a match that just screams it to me.
I mean, Nigel, Arteta was criticised a little bit last season for playing for a draw that Etihad. It was a 0-0 draw. Do you think, and you've mentioned it's fine margins, 2 points between them last season. Do you think he might tweak his tactics, or do you think because this game comes at this stage of the season, he'll be happy with a draw? It's different circumstances.
Well, he took 4 points off him last season, still couldn't win the league.
Yeah.
So it's something that's
Take
interesting.
6, he would have done.
Yeah, well, I just think here that it's one that Arsenal. I don't think Arsenal can afford to lose it really, because the points they dropped against Brighton as well, and suddenly the gap between them is 5 points and Man City. I think that's a lot at this stage of the season. So I think Arsenal will go there, especially without Odegaard. They have to go there and be a little bit tighter at the back and not concede any set pieces and do a job on Haaland. So I think if they can stop Haaland, they can stop City, and I think Saliba is the one man who can do that. So yeah, I think under 2.5 goals is the bet.
Yeah, Odegaard as well. He is the man that sets the press for Arsenal going forward. He's such a key member of what they do in forward areas. So Nigel, 2 unit play there, under 2.5 goals at -117. Jack has got his same game parlay to build for us next. There's going to be so many same game parlays on this game. An awful lot of handle, you would have thought, on the fixture, and there'll be plenty getting involved, putting together, building those same game parlays. This is how you do it, Jack.
Okay, yeah, well, without being too agreeable, my 2 unit play would have been under 2.5 goals in this game if I wasn't on same game parlay duty. You weren't going to put too many eggs in one basket. So that does form part of the same game parlay. Under 2.5 goals is in. As I say, we saw how tight and cagey these games were last season. I can't expect anything different from that this time round. So that Arsenal defence is just exceptional. Expect them to probably play a little bit narrower against City. Get the width out there for Man City, and then look to defend the box. And they do it well, probably the best in the league by some distance, to be fair. So that's how I go about it. I'm also getting a bit of juice in this one by going for Arsenal or the tie double chance. For much of those reasons, I think they're going to be so difficult to break down. Yes, I think they'd absolutely sign for a draw in this one right now, just to make sure they stay in touch. Don't give Man City too much of a head start in the league so far. And they proved it. Like I say, a 0-0 draw last season, 1-0 at the Emirates last season as well. They also drew over 90 minutes in the Community Shield. So you can see now that the last 3 games between these two have come down with Arsenal taking a positive result. So one thing about Man City we talked about in the past this season, we cashed last week with it as well, is they have conceded goals, very early ones as well. If they do that against Arsenal, they're in big trouble, because for them to go and get the win, to score 2 goals against this Arsenal defence is pretty much impossible, we've seen in recent months. So I like the fact that we're going to get Arsenal and the tie here at a very good price as well. The final part of the parlay, I didn't want to go down goal score routes because both myself and Nigel, we both think this is going to be very low scoring. So I didn't want to go down that route and go for real big odds. We're getting plus 600 by adding in over 6.5 Manchester City corners. I think they will dominate the ball. I think they will be in advanced areas. That will lead to corners coming. This actual same game parlay landed the last time these two met last season at the Etihad. It was 0-0. So both those first 2 elements came in, and Manchester City won 7 corners. They've gone well over this line in their 2 home games so far this season, admittedly against weaker opposition. They also did it when they went to West Ham as well. And last week we saw that kind of template for Arsenal against Tottenham. Expect that against Manchester City, and Tottenham won 7 corners that day as well. So it all works round at plus 600. I think it'll give us a run, and will be a nice return when it comes in.
Yeah. I really like this one. I mean, Arsenal the tie and the under sort of similar-ish prices. Then obviously corners boost it up a little bit. Nigel, your thoughts on Jack's same game parlay this week? I mean, 6-1 seems pretty good.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, I think I pretty much agree. I mean, Man City will, if it's the gamers will expect it to be tight, and they're chasing the match with 15, 20 minutes ago. It'll be all Man City possession and corners, and Arsenal will be defending for their life. And that's how I sort of see the match going. I agree. I think the 0-0's a big runner in this match as well. Yeah. No goal scorer. I mean, Man City. When was the last time Man City had back-to-back 0-0s? That must be some kind of stat question for you, Dan, to find out for next week.
That's a stat,
but I wouldn't surprise me at all. I think there's hardly anything between these two sides now, and the respect they have for each other is great. And these big matches over periods of time, over the matches, never usually live up to expectations. So, cue the 4-4.
Nigel, can you think, like 18 months ago when we both went to watch this game at the Etihad, and we saw parts of the game anyway. We
Nigel
both
never came out for the second half. I'll
well,
that's
no,
the
exactly right. Yeah, hooked at half time by the barman. Anyway, we went there under the assumption that Man City were going to blow Arsenal away, and they did, didn't they? 4-1 that ended, but that wasn't any surprise whatsoever. How far they've come in that length of time is incredible, really. When we go there, expected them to get something, or at least keep it very tight.
The one thing I would say about Man City this season, I know we haven't got much time here, is I think that what Manchester United did and what teams do when they're at their peak is they always freshen it up. They always bring someone in, like a big signing. Like Man United were bringing in players in, and the trouble with Man City this season is because they can't bring anyone in because nobody wants to go on a contract because they don't know what the future holds for Man City.
Yeah.
And they're the same players. I mean, you look at Man City; they'll be the same player. Well, most of the players who played in that game will be playing this game. You know, they haven't changed it. Whereas Arsenal got a new look side. Players are different. They've got more confidence about them. And I genuinely believe that turmoil behind the scenes at Man City with these points deductions is playing havoc for Pep. He can't bring any players. He gets two injuries. He gets an injury to Haaland. He's in big trouble because obviously Alvarez is gone. He's back up, and that is unlike him, you know, and Arsenal's benches will probably be as strong as City's really here this time around.
Arsenal have won 99 of 211 meetings with City in all competitions. Incidentally, maybe the 100th coming up at the weekend. City unbeaten in 9 at home in the Premier League against Arsenal. Last Arsenal win at the Etihad in the league back in 2015. One final thing, Nigel, have you got that Oasis City kit yet? Are you having that one at all?
I like it. I do like it.
I knew you'd like it.
I do like it. I'm actually going to get the Liam Gallagher Adidas trainers. I do like them. I saw them.
Oh, really?
I'll be stomping down to Wembley with my Adidas trainers on. Yeah. I like them.
Oh, wonderful. Nigel, Jack, many thanks for your company. Good luck to one and all. We will keep everyone updated via our X feeds. Give us your thoughts on YouTube as well. Great to get your thoughts on same game parlays for the City-Arsenal game. How are you going to build them for this weekend? We got the boys' P&L on screen for you as well. We'll be keeping a record over the course of the season. That is a wrap for Betting Weekly Premier League show. We'll be back next week for more picks, plays, hot dogs, same game parlays. We've got the live show every single midweek day at 11 a.m. Eastern. Follow us on @BecauseWeWin and subscribe, as we mentioned, to our YouTube channel. From all of us for now, though, it is goodbye.